Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Today, we are going to be continuing, of course, with our triennial reading of the Torah portion. Today, this Torah portion is Exodus chapter 21. We're going to actually go through two chapters, 21 and 22. Chapters 21 and 22. We're going to be dealing with the judgments. The judgments. That's what we're going to be dealing with in these scriptures. We'll go through, and there is a vast array of verses over here, different judgments that we'll be discussing and looking at. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. We'll start off and read, let me see, first 6 verses maybe. Hold on. Just going to go through a little bit at a time instead of reading the whole thing, since it's not like a narrative situation. We'll read, 21. And we'll go down just the first 6 verses here. Let me pull it up. Exodus 21. Let's read nice and loud, 1 through 6 for us here.
These are the right rulings which you are to set before them. When you buy a Hebrew servant, he serves 6 years, and in the 7th he goes out free for naught. If he comes in by himself, he goes out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, then she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children and are her masters. And he goes out by himself. And if the servant truly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, let me not go out free, then his master shall bring him before Elohim and shall bring him to the door or to the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever.
Okay, very good. So let's go up here and look at this real quick. We want to just start and just look at this first verse over here. We where it says, because it's important to understand what judgments even are, right? And so let's see over here. Let's get our tools together here. All right, 21 verse 1. It's here that in the scriptures version is translated as right rulings. We want to look at that, where of course that is the judgments, right? As it says right there, right? So let's look at this here. This word here is mishpat, or judgments, which is mishpatim. Mishpatim. Okay, so this word here means, which is translated as judgment, means a verdict, pronounced judicially, especially a sentence or formal decree, human or particularly divine law, individual or collectively. When we look at this word over here, I guess we want to concentrate on the idea of this being a verdict, like the judgments, the result of the thing, right? The verdict, the final judgment. Also, a thing we want to think about is if we go down here, also gives us here this idea of justice, right? Justice or justly, or in a just manner. Okay. And so this word judgments actually is from mishpat, is actually from this word here, shafat, which means to judge, right? Shafat is to judge, and mishpat or mishpatim is the thing that the judges have done, right? They've made the judgment, right? Or judge. And so when we look at this, and we think about, this thing that is translated as judgments, and we saw up here before where we saw that justice is something that's included in that. Another thing that we could think about that's connected with judgments and justice, something that's kind of synonymous with justice, I would say, is equity. Okay, so when we think about judgments, something that is incorporated in this idea of judgments, or the idea of judging, something that's connected with that is equity, justice, right? Or something that's right. In practice, equity is the impartial distribution of justice, or the doing that to another which the laws of Elohim and man and of reason give him the right to claim. It is the treating of a person according to justice and reason. And so when we look over here at these scriptures that we're going ready to go through. We read the beginning part of it. We're actually going through these judgments, these things that are putting forth these different distributions of justice. This is the way that justice is to be distributed among among Israel, right? And so when we look at these things, it's kind of different than when we look at, like, say for instance, when we looked at the Ten Commandments, for instance. We look at the Ten Commandments, it's basically do this, right? Don't do that, right? And so when we look at the judgments, it's more of parameters, upon which you live. If you have a particular issue, you go to the judges, and the judges have the judgings or the right rulings, they have these parameters to say, oh, you're bringing this situation to me. The judgments say that these are your, the parameters that the judgment fits in. Okay, so this is what it's going to be, as opposed to, do this. Thou shalt do this, or thou shalt not do that. When we look over here where it says about the idea of buying a Hebrew servant, for 6 years. Right. So it's not as if as soon as you buy the Hebrew slave, you automatically got him for 6 years. But the extension, it don't go beyond 6 years. Right? You could buy a Hebrew slave and then he can pay his debt could be paid off. Right, but the length upon which he's able to be a Hebrew servant, it can't go beyond that 6 years. Right, so it's giving you those parameters here and in other instances. So I like the way that the scriptures gives it to us, because it's basically really helping us to understand what these judgments are. They're right rulings. They're helping the judges to be able to rule rightly, right? And so also when we think about, something that, I always say is the fact that the law, we look at the law of the Most High, it's the character of the Most High humanized, right? The law is the character of the Most High humanized. So when we look at his laws, statutes, here we're looking at his judgments. If we were to translate his character into human form, it would be doing these things over here, right? It would be manifest in, the way that we see these right rulings be put forth over here. So when we walk these things out, when we see these things be exemplified and manifest for us, we see the character of the Most High. And so that's another thing we want to think about as we go through these different judgments, is that we're seeing the manifestation of the character of the Most High when we look at these things. So let's go ahead and look here at the first one that's dealt with over here, which is in verse 2, as we read, when you buy a Hebrew servant. Okay. Let me move this over some here. Pull this up a little bit. Look at some more of those things here. Okay, so as I said, we have those parameters over here, right? And so he served 6 years. He can serve up to 6 years. And in the 7th, he goes free, right? He's done, right? He can't, there's nothing else that could be done after that 6th year. That 7th year, he's gone, right? He comes by himself, he goes out by himself, right? If he comes with a wife, his wife goes out with him, right? It's pretty straightforward. But verse 4 now over here is kind of the interesting part, where things get a little interesting over here. If the master now, if he comes as and offers himself up for servitude, And then the master gives him a wife. And then she bears him sons and daughters. He goes out by himself, it says over here. Because in all actuality, this daughter here is actually still, as it even says, the wife and her children are the masters. And so what we'll see over here when we look at some of these words, sometimes they're kind of interchangeable, these different words. And we'll see as we look at some of these other things. But when we think about one thing that these situations force us to think about is the idea of or the fact that when we look at these different situations, we don't really think about people really as property much. But when we're looking at verse 4 over here, and we see what's going on, the idea of the master giving him a wife. Let's see what that word is. Oh, which one is it? I guess there is Isha or Nashim, which either one, I guess is Nashim. I guess is just a derivative of this word here. So it's not like it's a different word, right? But the idea of, we can look at the idea of a wife in different ways, right? There's different levels where we see here this word here is kind of I would say ambiguous, because in the context of what we're talking about, we're still dealing with the idea of this wife over here being the property of the master. And so if we have that kind of a situation, which I guess it does kind of it brings questions that we'll have later, but just to know that in this particular situation, we're dealing with the fact that the wife and the children of the wife that were given to the servant were indeed the property of the master. And so the servant then actually has the choice now, if he loves his wife and the master. I don't know which one which one we're thinking about him loving more, whether he's staying for the master or for the wife, or maybe he loves the wife so much and the master's not that bad, so he wouldn't be sad about staying for the sake of his wife. He can go through this thing over here where it talks about in verse 6 and basically go through this thing, which is basically a vow to be with the master forever. Now, we want to think about this over here for a minute, because when we look at this word over here, in the English it's translated as forever, but we know based on various places in scriptures that forever that's not always forever. Because here, let's look at this real quick. Let's look at this here. We know this word is olam. forever. Olam, which means concealed. So if we was to look at this, we're thinking about this time period being this time period that's actually concealed, time indefinite, or time out of mind, or that is the vanishing point, right? When you look off, when you look down the road, if you was in the Midwest where they got those flat highways and you're looking down a straight highway and you see all the way down to a vanishing point where you can't see any further, right? It's time indefinite. We're saying that because again, when we think about Olam, right, it's probably, it's a long time, but we got to think about other scriptures that give us things like, let's see what it says over here in Deuteronomy 25. And what's that say right there? Verse 40.
But as a hired servant, as a settler, he is with you, and he serves you until the year of Yobel.
41 also read that too.
And then he shall leave you, he and his children with him, and shall return to his own clan, even return to the possession of his fathers.
Okay, so when we look at this over here, there's a time which is the year of Yovel, the 50th year, where it's the time of release, right? And so that slave, that's what a Hebrew servant that comes to live with the master for that particular time. We could look at that and say, well, the verse over in verse 6 says that he shall serve him permanently, or he shall serve him forever, or he will serve him olam. But again, we think of olam as forever, but really it's just in an unforeseeable time away. That's sometime
because
that's
50
far
years
off.
only is going to happen once in a lifetime.
You're only getting one of those, right? Probably. You're probably only getting one of those. And so potentially it's an unforeseeable, place.
Unless you're close to the 50th year.
I guess, yeah, if you're close to it, yeah, that'd be nice.
When you sell yourself, really. But
that'd be the way to do it, to know when it is and be like, well, I know that the thing's coming up. I could go ahead and sell myself. I know because so you can't be a slave longer than 6 years, right? The 7th year you're released. And so that's just how that goes. So that cycle would start whenever you started being a servant. But this year of release, this year of Yovel, is something that don't reset with individuals. It's on its own clock. And so when that time comes, it's the year of release. It's not to say that you got to be somewhere for 50 years. You just kind of get lined up with that year of Jubilee, how it's translated in the King James version. You just get lined up with the year of Jubilee, and that's that year of release. So when we look over at that verse 6 and then add this Leviticus 25 and 40 to it adds kind of this other layer over here that is that we have to think about when we think about that forever that it tells us about in verse 6 of 21 of Exodus. What was you
I mean, I was just going to say, I don't know if you're going to go down, but it also talks about not causing those people, causing the servant to, or ruling over him with rigor.
Are you talking about in Leviticus?
Yeah, and down
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well,
You're
I
not
wasn't going to
supposed
go down, but that goes along with what we'll see over in Exodus in terms of, again, ruling rightly. And so, again, we look at the judgments of the Most High. His character shines through when we look at these commands. And so,
So if somebody was to be sold as a servant or a slave, and their master ruled over them harshly, now they're outside of bounds for that 6-year agreement.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's definitely checks and balances within the Torah. And so, when we in America, we think about slavery, and we think about the slavery from American slavery standpoint, and it's just a bad kind of a starting point for us to think about. Like before when we talked about idols and the white Jesus, how if you think about Jesus, you see that blonde-haired, blue-eyed thing, because that's something that's attached in your mind to Jesus, right? The same thing is about slavery. The way that slavery happened in this country is how we think about slavery, and it's not an accurate representation of how the Most High, at least, sanctioned for servitude to even be. So we want to just keep that in mind, that the Most High's characters in His judgments, and we're able to see it. Even when we're looking at this, it seems harsh at first when you think about it. But again, if you think about it from an emotional standpoint, man, the man gets this wife and he can't even take her with him. But really, it's the mercy of the master to begin with, to even give him the wife in the first place. So you could think of it from kind of an emotional point, like, man, he's got to leave his people like that. But in all actuality,
he chose the wife. He chose to marry her.
Yeah, he made the decision knowing what the consequences of it was. And again, thinking about the idea that we're talking about, we're talking about property over here. He took that he had to have taken that into account. What was you gonna say?
I mean, and then if we go, like, I'm not trying to take it off, but if we go even to Deuteronomy 15, when he goes free, he's not supposed to go out empty-handed. Deuteronomy 15, verse 13.
Yeah.
Says, and when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock and out of thy floor and out of thy winepress. Of thy wherewith Yahweh thy Elohim has blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. So he kind of gets like the little retirement plan package on his way out.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the circumstances. Like sometimes, like over here, like we was looking at this over here, and when you think about, how this, how some of these things even go, you're working your way out of a debt, or maybe you don't have a debt with an individual, but you're kind of in a place of destitute.
You don't have anything.
You don't have nothing. And so you end up becoming this servant,
that you agree to be
Yeah.
a servant.
right. It's basically like how we would think about like an indentured servant. Right. We got to say that so that we can even think about it right, because of the thought of slavery that we have. Yeah, today working would be like working in it's yeah,
We have
it's
these bills that we
slavery.
have to pay.
Yeah,
We gotta go to work in order
Yeah.
to pay the bills.
right. And so
You
yeah.
don't go to work, you're homeless.
Okay, so let's keep on going down over here. Okay, so let's look at let's read 7. Let me pull up this. Read verse 7. Let's see, down to, hold on. Let's see how far down we're going to go. Seven, and read down to 11. Let me pull it up here. Verse 7, nice and loud, down to verse 11.
And when a man sells his daughter to be a female servant, she does not go out as the male servants do. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her master, who has engaged her to himself, then he shall let her be ransomed. He shall have no authority to sell her to a foreign people because of him deceiving her. And if he has engaged her to his son, he is to do to her as is the right of daughters. If he takes another wife, her food, her covering, and her marriage rights are not to be diminished. And if he does not do these three for her, then she shall go out for naught without silver.
Okay, so we went from over there talking about if a Hebrew man is sold as a servant, but now we see, so if a man sells his daughter to be a female servant, now there's a difference. Now she don't go out like the man goes out. In other words, you had that time period, that limit on the man, where it talks about him staying for a time and then going out. But then it says that the female servant, she doesn't go out like the man goes out. And so let's see, there's some different words that's used over here. Let's look at this. If we look at verse 7, man sells his daughter, become a maid servant, which is this word here, which is amah, which is maid servant, bond servant, maid. If we pull that up, if we pull this up in the BBD, we get another thing over here, another added thing, this concubine situation over here, right? And so we also have that added to the situation in terms of what this maid servant is. And so the maid servant, again, now it gives you these different scenarios. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her master, who has engaged her to himself, he saw the maid servant and he wanted to go ahead and purchase her, right? And then finds out, well, maybe I'm not really that excited about this one like that. Then it says, then she then he shall let her be ransomed. Now, there's something that's implied over here when we see this over here, because ransom. Let me just see what this word is over here. When we think about the idea of ransoming, it's something that, let me see, pada, sever, ransom, release. Okay, this is one of the words, but it's not the other one. I was thinking about Gaal, which has to do with the kinsman redeemer. And so the idea over here with pada is the idea of severing. So when we think about the idea of this redemption or this ransoming, he's able to go ahead and sell this lady to someone else, but not a foreign people, right? So he's able to sell her. He's able to sell her if he's not pleased with her, but he's not able to sell her to foreigners. What to say over here? A woman sold as a servant would equate to a concubine, but a woman bought would be considered a wife. I guess it just kind of depends on the situation. Sometimes these words are kind of interchangeable, where that word could mean maid servant, where she really is just a maid servant and not a wife. But also the word could mean concubine, where it kind of has dual purposes. Let's see. If we look over here, how many times is this used? Handmaid, maid servant, maid, bondwoman, maids, maid servant. Look, we don't even find that word actually translated as concubine. Actually. Okay, so we see here again that this maid servant can be redeemed if the master don't like her, but not to foreigners. Now, here's this other situation in verse 9. If he decides that he's going to give her to his son, now there's a status change over here. And he is to do to her as is the right of daughters. Right? So now it's kind of dual purposes. He has a son, and he also has ownership of this handmaid. So once he decides to give her to the son, she acts like the relationship between him and her, not because she's the daughter-in-law, but she's to be treated as far as the handing over to the son as the same way he would hand a daughter over to someone else. Right? He is to do to her as is the right of daughters. So now it changes where it's not as if it's just kind of this person that's not really connected to you other than financial. Once you decide that you're going to give her to your son, now you got to deal with her a little bit differently. Because when you think about it, she's already in this position where she doesn't have a father anymore, right? The father probably was on bad times and had to sell his daughter. That's the kind of things they did back then. You know, times is hard. Africa, I'm laid off. I'm gonna go ahead and sell you. You know, I love you, but I can't take care of you that good, so I'm just gonna have to get a couple bucks for you. That's the kind of things that they did, right? And so she didn't have a father, but she had a master. And then so again, when we get to this verse 9 situation, now the master is going to act as if he's the father in the transaction. And of course, it's going to be a father-in-law, but like in the transaction, now he becomes the father. And then over here we also see now, so now if the son, well, I guess I don't know if this is the son or it must be the son, because we see where the example was he didn't like that one, so he could redeem her, or he could have her and then take another wife. So it's either way. If in fact she gets to the place of being that wife, whether it's the son or him, and then another one comes into the situation, it says that she needs to still be fed and covered and have her marriage rights not be diminished. And then verse 11 says that she got to have all three of those things got to be intact, or else she gains freedom. So she don't get no silver, but she gets freedom. Which I guess in some cases is better than silver. But again, what we see over here, again, thinking about the character of the Most High, he doesn't want for this wife to become neglected, right? He doesn't want for her to become neglected. He wants for her to be forever be cared for. And if the person's not going to go ahead and care for her in the way that she needs to be cared for, then she's able to just go out and be free and not stay there and be neglected. Yeah. And, when we think about these situations, when we think about this particular situation, again, thinking about the idea of judgments, this thing that this part of the culture that, you had multiple wives was something that was a cultural norm for the people, at that time. And so when we see this, and also when we see this idea of people selling themselves into slavery, all these things, when we look at this, what the Most High really is doing is dealing with these people and their cultural customs, the thing they actually did already, and then he's putting borders around the customs that were in place.
That don't mean that we should start selling people.
Yeah, it's not as if again, this is not the same as when we look at like laws and statutes and commandments. We're dealing with these judgments. So the Most High put together these judgments that helped these people to deal with the things that was going on with them from a cultural perspective. Like this is things that those people, not just Israel, but all the people. And we know that we can see that all the people is included, because in terms of the handmaid that you didn't want, you wasn't able to sell her to a foreigner.
They wasn't going to be under the same.
They wouldn't have the same judgments that we had, but they're still doing the things. They were doing it. This is what those people at the time did. And so again, we look at these things, what we gain from it today is to be able to see the justice in it, right? To be able to see the equity in it and know that when we do our dealings, whatever dealings that we get into, that we have to remember that we have to move in ways that's upright, just like we see what is put in place for ancient Israel, right? Not to say that we're going to be out here selling our, for us, it's not something that we culturally do in this place. And that's not to say, and again, it don't have nothing to do with being against the Torah either, because this is dealing with when you get into these particular situations, this is how you do it. If you sell your daughter, if you become a slave, this is what happens. Right? This is how to do it. Not thou shalt sell your daughter. Right? This is within the context of this particular cultural norm. This is how you would attack and deal with the situation. Okay, let's keep on going over it. Oh, let's see here. Oh, well, we went over that. Let's go. Let's keep on going here. Let's go down verse. We went down 10, 11. Okay, let's pick it up at verse 12. Let's see. Let's read 12, 13, and 14. Start reading at verse 12.
14?
Down to 14.
He who strikes a man so that he dies shall certainly be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hand, then I shall appoint for you a place where he is to flee. But when a man acts presumptuously against his neighbor to kill him by treachery, you are to take him even from my slaughter place to die.
Okay, very good. So, over here, verse 12. If you sit up here and you kill somebody, he who strikes a man so that he dies, you're going to be put to death. It says, he who strikes a man so that he dies, you're going to be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait, okay, so we got to connect these back to it, right? If he did not lie in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hand, then there's going to be this place where you're able to go and flee. And so we got to be able to connect 12 with 13. If I'm striking you because I'm lying in wait, there's no way around it. You're put to death. But if I wasn't laying in wait and I just strike you and you die, and maybe you had it coming to you, says that Elohim delivered him into his hand. This is interesting here. Elohim delivered him into your hand. He had it coming, right? But it's still, this is interesting because even if you had it coming to you, even if you deserve to die, somebody's still able to come and get their revenge on you. So there's still like this thing that should be kind of keeping you from killing, because this is a situation where it says Elohim delivered him into your hand.
He allowed him to die.
This was the Most High's will. for him to go. Somebody is still able to come and get their revenge on you if you don't go to this place that was appointed to you to flee by the Most High. And so again, thinking about the impartiality, thinking about the justice, right? When we look at this, the Most High might have even just ordained for this man to end up getting killed, but still he allows for justice to be served in his name, even though the Most High ordains it, he still allows justice to be done outside of these this place that he created to flee.
It's kind of interesting that he created a parameter. He created these cities of refuge. So he created a parameter to, make a judgment based off of. So if you kill them outside of those cities, it's just. But if you kill them inside of the cities, then that's unjust.
Well, you kill them and then go to the place. Right? The cities is the place where you're able to go.
No, I mean, I'm saying that somebody killed the person that was guilty.
Oh, yeah, the killer, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you kill them inside of the city of refuge, that's a violation.
That's a violation. I'm saying that Yah created a parameter in and of itself.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Right. That place, the flee.
So does he believe in the death penalty?
I mean, obviously, we see it right here, right? We look at 12 and 13, right? He who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait, he's able to not have the death penalty, right? He's able to go and stay in the place where he's able to flee to. But if he's caught outside of that place, then he's able to have the death penalty inflicted upon himself. Just other death penalties too. We keep on going. Even here, if when a man acts presumptuously or with this word presumptuously, let's look at this word. Zood or zeed, right? To seethe, right? If you're seething, you know what that is?
Seethe? No.
Boil. I know you knew what it is. To boil, right? And so you have rage inside of you, right? You done boiled up. You got real hot, right? So when a man acts in his hotness against his neighbor to kill him by treachery or craftily, right? Treachery, I think that's something that's going to be closely related to craftiness. Let's see what that is. Neighbor to slay him in guile. What's that word?
Like to trick him?
Orma, trickery, discretion, subtlety.
He thought about it.
Willily. I almost said willy-nilly. Prudence, discretion. So he thought this thing out, right? He used trickery, right? He set him up. Maybe it was some kind of a trap that he set, right? So he kills him with guile and with heat, right? Seething anger, right? That one, you take him even to my slaughter place to die, it says, right? Death penalty. You sit up there and you made a plan. You got a getaway scheme. You figured out how you was gonna trap him over there. I know where he'd be at over in that one place, and I'm gonna go over there and snatch him up and grab him, and you die, right? Death penalty, right? So the Most High most definitely believes in the death penalty, and this person need to die, right? This person over here, it's all presumptuous, treacherous, so and so over here, right? So he most definitely is all about that. We can see that, no problem. Okay, what's this other one here? If we look at so we got a couple rapid fire ones. Read that verse 15. What that say right there?
And he who strikes his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death.
Done. Done deal. Right, there's not even no caveat. It just goes right to the next one. It goes right to the next command. It's not even like, but again, these are the judgments, right? So if you sit up here and you want to strike your father or your mother, you shall certainly be put to death. You deserve the death penalty.
No city of refuge.
No city of refuge. It don't say nothing about presumption, or none of that treachery. If you do that, done. And then so we can connect that. We can connect that over there, right, with the fifth commandment, right? We look at that. What is that at? Let's see if it's all so close. Respect your father and your mother so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh Elohim gives you. Right? That goes right along with if you strike them, you'll die because your life actually won't be prolonged or actually be shortened, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back over to 21.
What you want?
Okay, so let's see here, 16.
And he who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, shall be put to death.
Okay, so if you kidnap somebody or you got somebody that's been kidnapped, right? So if you kidnap a man and sell him, so you kidnap him and then I found out, oh, you sell somebody that you kidnap? Or if he is found in, so the kidnapper, the seller, the buyer, and the possessor, because all of them could be different people, right? I could kidnap somebody and then I could sell them.
Trafficking.
Yeah, so all these people out here doing this little human trafficking, that's definitely against
Torah.
That's definitely against the Torah. So if you even benefited, right? If I buy somebody that's been kidnapped, because it don't say if you buy, but if he's found in your hand, it's implied, right? Put to death. We've seen a couple of these little death penalty ones over here, huh? There's another one right there, 17. What'd that say?
And he who curses his father or his mother shall serve.
All right, we need to look at this over here because people, I think kids be cursing their parents under their breath. You know that? What does it say over here? What's this word? We gotta know this and make sure you don't be doing this. Kalal. It says to be or to make light literally swift, small, right? Trifling, vile, abate, to make bright, to bring into contempt. We think about the idea of kalal is literally the opposite of kabod or kavod, right? One is to make heavy, and the one is to make light, right? So if we supposed to honor our parents, what they got to say, that thing is heavy. That thing got some weight, some substance to it, right? It means something because it's heavy.
You regard their
You
words.
Yes, their words mean something. Over here, you done made that, you making it small. You making it loud. Go ahead, mommy. I ain't thinking about what you.
What about I'm out of here?
I don't know.
Leader.
I don't know if that's. Maybe it depends on the context, I guess I would say. If you sit there trying to talk to them and then they sit there and said that to you like that, then yes, because they making light about the heaviness that you speaking over there. Right? And so, it's important for us to understand what this is even saying so that we make sure that we don't get caught up in this. We think about curses and we think it's like some cuss words or something, right? But this don't necessarily got nothing to do with that. It's talking about how you regard them, right? How is it that you're regarding your mother and your father? Are you causing them to be small, or are you causing them to be heavy? Because when we look at the Torah over here, the parents was able to take their kids before the judges and be like, look, little Johnny over here ain't paying me no attention. And then it would be curtains for little Johnny. Right? Curtains. Okay, let's see here. 18. Let's see how far we're going to go down to 18 and 19.
And when men strive together, and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but is confined to his bed, if he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, then he who struck him shall be innocent. He only pays for lost time and sees to it that he is completely healed.
Okay, so this is interesting here. If two men get in a fight, and the one that loses can't go to work for a week, right? If he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, it says, so he strikes him the other with a stone or with his fist. So if he got a weapon or he just fighting him with his hands, he does not die, but he's confined to his bed. You put him out, right? He's out for the count for a couple of days. He gets up and he's able to walk again with a staff. Then the one who struck him shall be innocent. He only pays for lost time and sees to it that he's completely healed.
So even if he hurts him to the point that he has to walk around with a cane, he's still innocent.
I think this, when you think about I don't think he has to have a cane. I think the point is that he was out of commission for a time, where he was laid up for a while, right? So he got up now. He was able to get back, but they're saying with the stick, because if it is with a stick, you gotta help him in his rehabilitation process.
You gotta pay for his physical therapy.
Yeah. I guess if they had physical therapy, but you get the doctor bill, basically.
Well, basically, you get beat up, but you don't die. Dude's really hurt, so you get the doctor bill.
No, not you get beat up. You were the one who did
No,
the beating.
yeah, I'm saying that. You're the one that beat him up.
Yeah.
He's beat up.
And we don't think about that, right? We don't think about
Yeah,
these kind of things as far as Torah is concerned. But you know, people still out here getting in fights. You know, you tear somebody up, and they got to sit up there and go to the hospital. You know, you might be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I put that dude in the hospital. He's up here talking crazy, you know what I'm saying? But of course, if you Torah observant,
You paying the bill.
you supposed to pay the bill. You supposed to make sure you're all right after that, right?
Because that's your brother at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, you know, we all turned around out here. The way that we deal with our so-called brother out here is interesting when we look at this, because we talking about these people over here. We talking about Israel in a community. This is your neighbor. This is your people right here, right? Where y'all got to the place where y'all wasn't able to talk about nothing no more. The only thing you could do was pick up some fists or pick up a stone or both. And that's the only way you was able to be done with this situation. But after that, it's over now. Because now I got to sit up here and make sure that you are healed. I got to see to it that you are completely healed. It says in verse 19. Right? I only got to pay for lost time and see to it that you are completely healed. That then became now your responsibility. And so again, when we look at these things, we see inside of the character of the Most High and understanding, you know, men, we sit up here and we could go back and forth about a thing, and then we could even go out in the backyard about the thing, right? But at the end of the day, it's not about killing nobody. It's just about somebody being right, somebody being wrong. But at the end of the day, you still brothers, you still care for one another, right? I'm still going to see to it that you're okay at the end of the day. And we see all of that inside of this here judgment over here. It's not about like you know, if you couldn't care less about this person, you're not sitting up here worrying about you couldn't even care about how much pay you lost and the limp that you got after the fact, right? But the Most High, again, we talking about Israel. We talking about inside. What y'all doing? We talk about inside of a community, right? A community of Israel, right?
Yep.
And so again, we see when we look inside of the Most High's judgments, we're able to see his character still shine through, right? Because if that's your enemy, right? If that's your enemy, if that's somebody on the outside, you mess around and have some type of celebration or something, you know, after you win your battle, right? But over here, right, there's still a type of connection between the two parties.
I think also, how can you at the feast time come together with someone that, you know what I mean? Like you still are in community with this person. You might see them at the temple, or you might see them on Shabbat, like the holy day, you know. You can't just totally demolish someone and you know what I mean? Just forget about it. There's no forgetting about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, what's next over here? Let's see, 2021.
And when a man strikes his male or female servant with a rod, so that he dies under his hand, he shall be certainly punished. But if he remains alive a day or two, he is not punished, for he is his property.
Okay, very good. So I think when we look at this over here, if we see over here in verse 20, if he strikes his servant and he dies under his hand, he probably was trying to kill him. Right? So punishment is going to be delivered unto him. Right? Because he was definitely in the wrong for doing that. But if he just beats him pretty bad, he's just giving him some chastisement.
What if he remains alive? That means he died.
I know, but he wasn't trying to kill him. I think that's the difference. I think with 21, if he remains alive a day or two, he's not punished. You kill him and he dies immediately, I feel like he tried to kill him. If he kills him by mistake, he wasn't trying to kill him, and then his punishment, he don't get punished, but he's receiving punishment because now he don't have no servant because he's dead. But it puts the thing at the end, right? He's his property. So when we think about the idea of so this, even though to me when I look at this, I feel like he's not gaining any additional punishment outside the fact that he's punished within his own self because now he don't have a slave anymore that he just killed by mistake.
I mean, a day is a short amount of time.
It is. But I'm just saying when I look at this, somebody else might have a different thought. But to me, when I look at this, I feel like verse 20, he dies straight away. You was going crazy. You did too much. If I beat him now, and then he ends up dying later, I may have did too much, but I wasn't really trying to kill you. I'm not going to get judged by the judges, but again, I'm judging myself because now I got to sit up here and I got to go and find another. I got to do my own work now, unless I got multiple slaves, but you one short though. And it is your property, right? And again, we don't think about things in that regard, people as property, but you know that's what them people used to do back in them days, right? Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. So let's read down to Let's read down to 27 now. Let's see where we start at. Let's read 22. Start reading at 22.
And when men strive and they shall smite a pregnant woman, and her children come out, yet there is no injury, he shall certainly be put to death. Be punished accordingly as the woman's husband lays upon him. And he shall give through the judges. But if there is injury, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, lash for lash. And when a man strikes the eye of his male or female servant and destroys it, he is to let him go free for the sake of his eye. And if he knocks out the tooth of his male or female servant, he is to let him go free for the sake of his tooth.
Okay, very good. We can actually look at these two over here and think about these ones up here. Right? You got your servant that you beat up and he dies. Either way, you're out of a servant. Either you killed him and you in trouble, or you killed him by mistake and you're without a servant. But over here, down if you just beat him and you knocked his eye out, you still out of a servant. But he's able to go freed up, right? You strike your male, female servant and destroy their eye, right? They're free to go. Let them go free, or knock their tooth out for the sake of the tooth. The tooth's worth the whole freedom. So I think, to me, I feel like it adds.
This is just interesting.
It adds to the other thing over there, right? It adds a whole other layer to the other thing. If I beat you to death and you die right straight away, I'll get judged. If I beat you hard, but you die like 2 days later, I'm saying that maybe I didn't mean to kill you, but you died anyway, so I lose out on the servant. But I'm not judged because it's my property. But if I'm beating you now and I've hit your eyeball out, so I beat you
out.
I beat you pretty bad. I beat your eye out, or I beat your tooth out. There's no judgment that I get except I lose my servant, which is pretty big judgment as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of. I mean, and I'm not saying anything because this is Yah's judgment. You know what I mean? It's the judgment. But it's just interesting that you can go as far as someone being killed or die in 2 days, and then you can go to just knocking out someone's tooth and then they get free.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like knocking out a tooth isn't really that bad compared to.
You got to hit pretty hard to get a tooth knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta like really.
Some things is in there pretty good.
Yeah, either kick or punch or something.
Yeah.
Elbow. I don't mean, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like the tooth isn't really that big of a deal, but he gets freed over losing a tooth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the eye is a big deal to me. What's the other thing?
There was an eye in the tooth.
Was it just the eye and the tooth?
Yeah.
The eye is a big deal because you got to be able to see, but the tooth isn't to me. That's not really a big deal.
I mean, the tooth is gone forever.
Especially if you see adult teeth. Baby teeth, not that big of a deal. But adult teeth, I don't know if they had dentures back in them days.
I don't know. I think I wouldn't think a tooth would be that big.
Okay, so going back though, if we go back with these men fighting again. So when men fight and they smite a pregnant woman, and the baby comes out from them fighting, yet there's no injury, he shall certainly be punished according as the woman's husband lays upon it. So whatever the husband comes up with in terms of whatever type of restitution that he requires, they'll take it to the judge and see if the judge is going to sit up there and give them that. Right? The husband of the pregnant woman. Maybe I don't know if that's a third. That's a third part, like two guys are fighting and then they bump into some other man's pregnant wife or whatever. But if there is injury, right? But if there is injury, right? So this is like if that happens, the baby comes out, but maybe there's just some, they went through some, was it pain and suffering?
Yeah.
They figure out what that is. But if there is injury, then it says, you shall give a life for a life.
Injury to what?
To the baby,
Oh.
right? The baby, the pregnant woman whose baby came out because she got bumped. She got smoked by the men that was fighting. And so if there is an injury, whatever that injury is, the baby dies, somebody else got to die. The baby come out, the baby fell out and busted his, well, he don't got no teeth. But maybe the baby came out and one of his hands or arms got broke. Then one of their hands and arms is getting broke. Maybe just got a big gash, a big cut, right? A wound or a burn or a lash or what have you. Whatever it is that the baby got, the person that caused the thing to happen, that is going to happen to them too, it says. Right?
Well, sorry.
Okay, so every time we look at these verses over here, it causes us to think about where did we read down to? 28 man strikes. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was we talked about those. Okay, so let's go over here real quick, because we can't think about these verses and not think about what Yeshua said over here. What is that? Matthew 5:38. 38 through 42. Read that.
You heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the wicked. But whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. And he who wishes to sue you and take away your inner garment, let him have your outer garment as well. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asks of you, and from him who wishes to borrow from you, do not turn away. Okay, so when we think back now to what we just read in the Torah, where it says over here, and talking about where we just was at, and it says eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Yeshua says, you heard it said, but I say to you, do not resist the wicked. Whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. So we got to think about what in the world is Yeshua talking about over here, because he's in up here saying, I know that they was talking about eye for an eye back over there, but he's saying this over here. So again, if we look back to eye for an eye is what? I want the thing that you did to me to get done back to you. I got to sit up here and have all this stuff done to me that you did. So I'll feel better now if that same exact thing happens to you. And then we look at the examples that Yeshua is giving over here. He's saying something, well, you don't necessarily got to have this exact restitution necessarily. If somebody slaps you, this is it's metaphorical. He's not really talking about you sitting up here getting slapped, somebody slapping you and you saying, here, slap my other one too. But it's about the idea of you wanting to have this restitution, this
you did this thing to me. Now I got to get you back, kind of a thing. Right? We don't have to sit up here and be the ones that's out here looking for revenge. I gotta have my revenge. This so and so sat up here and they did this, and that to me, and I'm not gonna rest until I'm able to get paybacks. Right? Yeshua saying, we don't gotta sit up here and be worrying about these paybacks. Right? If somebody wants to sit up here and look, he says somebody wishes to sue you and take your inner garment. Here, just go ahead and take that. Here, matter of fact, if you need that, here, take my outer one too. And we could just be done with each other. You want the inner one? Take the inner one and the outer one, and I don't got to deal with you no more. Right? We want to sit up here and have this exact restitution, and it's not something that's always a necessity, right? If somebody asks you to go a mile, right? That's like somebody saying, "Look, let me talk to you for a minute," and then you sitting up there looking at your watch, waiting for that minute to be up. Right? You just give them exactly what it is that they are owed or that they're due. Right? But Yeshua is saying, you don't have to have this exact restitution. Now, another thing is that what we can't look at this and think that this is talking about is for Yeshua sitting over here and thinking that people are supposed to just be like a doormat or somebody that people just run over or do all types of things for them. Right? But I think that the idea over here is really about kind of a personal revenge kind of a thing. Because, and we got to think about the fact that if you was to actually see or experience some gross injustice, that something like that you couldn't let go unchallenged, because then you would actually be going against the Torah, right? Because if we look at Leviticus 19 and 16, what's that say?
Do not go slandering among your people. Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahweh.
Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. Right? So it's one thing for somebody to do something to you, and you just to say, well, I'm not, it's not that big of a deal to me, just whatever, right? Whatever, turn the other cheek, whatever. But that's not to say that you just allow or bear witness to gross injustices, and then those things don't go unchallenged.
Because that would be unjust.
Right, because that would be unjust. That would be you here not standing against the blood of your neighbor. Right? But if it's something that is going on with your own self, and when you think about things, it's not even really that big of a deal, then just let it be that. And so I think when we think about what it is that Yeshua is talking about over here with this idea of he's trying to help for us to be able to kind of be a higher, operate on a higher level of compassion, and not really, because I guess when you think about it at its, at the core of the situation, when you think about the idea of, your personal revenge, right? It's kind of I think it kind of ends up being like a pride thing anyway. When we get to the very bottom of it, I can't believe this person did this thing to me. Like, and then you want to go and turn and do that same thing back unto them, right? Where these things are not always something that's necessary, right? We're not talking about like we're not talking about a situation where somebody's trying to literally do you bodily harm and take you out or hurt your people, right? Your family or nothing like that, right? But I'm just saying that it seems as if Yeshua is saying all things, don't got to be about, you broke my pencil, so now I'm gonna break yours.
Because I mean, if you always is thinking like that, then you're never really going to be able to build work anymore. Somebody's always going to offend you with something.
Yeah, some people more than others. Probably.
Yeah. So if you're always looking for an opportunity to get your, offense back at them, then it's just, you're always at war, basically.
Yeah.
And that's your brother. It's not your enemy.
Right. And I think that
if somebody's your enemy,
that part of it, I think, is probably the key component there, because we're talking about inside of Israel in the first place. And again, when we look at these judgments, this really is something that is that can be owed to the person. Like he's within his rights to go after these things. He's not commanded to go after them. He's in his right to go after his neighbor's hand or foot or tooth or eye or life if he wants that. But he don't got to do it.
Look at what Kadara said.
You are brothers and sisters, not enemies. Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's what this is talking about over here. These verses over here is talking about how we deal with each other. Right? So even if your brother does this thing that's against you, that don't mean you guys sit up there and not be able to deal with them until you able to get your get backs. Even though you're owed some get backs, it's your complete right to get some get backs. But Yeshua is saying you don't need those get backs.
Especially if you're being led by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Just move on. Right? Okay, very good. All right, so let's finish up this chapter here. Let's see where we at. 28. Yep.
And when an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and its flesh is not eaten, and the owner of the ox is innocent. However, if the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and and, and its owner has been warned and he has not kept it confined so that it has killed a man or woman, the ox is stoned and the owner is also put to death.
All right, let's just stop right there. That's just negligence, right? It's one thing. It's one thing to say, my ox got loose and then it accidentally killed somebody. That's one thing. But if you know that your ox be out here goring people, right? And somebody already showed you where something bad almost happened, right? Then you basically murdered somebody because you didn't do what was necessary to prevent this thing that you had everything in your power. You was able to sit up here and do it, right? So everybody gets killed, right? The ox is stoned, the owner's put to death. Period. Right? Negligence, right? So we got to think about those things, right? We got to think about the things that we have control over, right? And our responsibility over the things that we got control over. Because the Most High over here, that's what this basically is over here, right? If something that I control does hurt, harm, or danger to somebody, I can't sit up here and try to remove myself from the responsibility of that. I got to take responsibility for that, right?
You see that happen with just car companies and
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we know these places that we live in are wicked. They'll sit up here and make something. And they know that there's something wrong with it, and they won't sit up here and fix it until like 100,000 people have a problem with it, after the fact. You know what I mean? And because people are out here just all about just getting money. But we as Israel can't operate in that way, right? We have to take ownership for the things that we have, especially having knowledge of, right? We look at this ox, you had knowledge of the thing, and then you didn't make any provisions or anything to prevent this thing from happening, right? And so, we have to be able to look at these things and take these things outside, because we're not walking around here with oxes and things out here. And that was one thing about whenever somebody stole my property out of my car, as a where I could have just said whatever, because I don't really call the police like that, right? But because of what they stole, I had to call the police. I had to let somebody know so that I wouldn't sit up here and be liable for somebody doing something with what they took out of my car, right? And so I had to call the police, even though I don't be calling the police like that, right? But I knew that something that was mine was taken, and somebody else could have used that thing for bad purposes. So I tried to rectify that situation. And so we have to be able to take responsibility for the things that we know about that could become potential harms for people. If you sitting up here and you ain't shoveling your sidewalk in the winter time, and
it gets icy out here.
you know it, right? I feel like you breaking this ox command over here. because there was something that you was supposed to do that you was responsible for, and somebody got hurt because of your negligence, right? Where them people probably gonna sue you anyway, but you breaking the Torah at the same time, right?
People say they're Torah observant, but they don't.
But they don't
See
shovel their
already.
sidewalk. You think you Torah observant and you don't shovel your sidewalk in the snow when it's ice and then it rains and then there's like a sheet of ice on top of your thing, and you Torah observant and you don't do nothing about that? All right, I'm just playing, but I'm serious too. I'm serious. I'm just playing. Okay, keep going. 30. Verse 30.
If a sin covering is laid upon him, then he shall give the ransom of his life, whatever
Oh wait,
is
hold on.
laid,
Yeah.
whatever is laid on it. Whether it has gored a son or gored a daughter, according to this right ruling, it is done to him.
Mm-hmm.
If the ox bores a male or female servant, he is to give their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox is stoned.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's interesting. They don't gotta die; they just gotta pay for the servant. It's hard being a servant back in them days. You're not even worth the whole. You wasn't even worth the individual. You was worth money, but it wasn't life for life. It was property. It was payment. You was really in hard times if you was in servitude. Okay, keep on going. We gotta get through this.
And when a man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls in it, the owner of the pit is to repay. He is to give silver to their owner, and the dead beast is his. And when the ox of a man smites the ox of his neighbor, and it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the silver from it, and also divide the dead ox. Or if it was one that the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and its owner has not kept it confined, he shall certainly repay ox for ox, while the dead beast is his.
Okay, so this one is probably the same as the other ones, but it didn't gore a person, it gored an animal, right? The same negligence of him not fencing in this habitual gorer, right? We see this is basically the same kind of a thing where we're talking about a pit, right? We're talking about these animals who are doing things to other animals or other people, right? So it's still along the same lines of saying that, we have to be held accountable for the things that we are responsible for, right? Whether it be oxes or ditches, like them people. I don't know who put that hole in the sidewalk over there, but that hole in the sidewalk was there for like a year. It seemed like. And who put the board over top of it? I don't even know who did that.
But the board didn't even do that much.
It didn't hardly do nothing.
People fell down in that hole.
That's like some of these construction jobs is Torah observant. If there's a hole in the floor, you're supposed to put a cover over the hole and write hole on the cover.
And write it on the cover?
Yeah. So if you got a hole in the floor, like that's big enough for your foot to go in, you're supposed to cover the hole and like spray paint hole on the cover, so that somebody knows that there's a hole right there, so nobody falls in. But that's the Torah, though, right? Because if somebody falls in, then you're responsible for that. Okay, let's look at these other ones real quick and go through these rapid fire ones in the next chapter.
That's real Torah observant, because in the mines, they would be in the pitch blackness with holes going straight down.
He laughed. Okay, so let's look over here at 22. Let's actually read. Let's see here. Where's what are you doing? What are you doing? Let's see here. Let's go from verse 1. Read through some of the. I guess we'll read all the way down through 15. I think. Yeah. I'll just start reading right here. Okay, when a man steals an ox or a sheep, or shall slaughter it or sell it, he repays 5 cattle for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. Now, see, now this is not going to be exact restitution over here because now you add this idea over here of you done stole.
Ooh.
Right? So it's one thing to like accidentally kill something or something like that, but you actually stole the thing, right? And so now you got to repay whether it's sheep, which is 4-fold, or cattle, which is 5-fold. Okay, verse 2, read that right there.
If the thief is found breaking in and he is struck so that he dies, there is no guilt for his bloodshed.
Okay, period. Somebody break in and they get struck and they dead from breaking in, that's their own fault. Right? There's no guilt for his bloodshed. That's the Torah. You come in my house and then something strikes you and you end up being dead as a result of what struck you. That's your fault, right? Oh, what's this one say now? 22 verse 3. What that say?
If the sun has risen on him, there is guilt for his bloodshed. He shall certainly repay if he has not the means, then he shall be sold for his theft.
Oh, if the sun has risen on him, there is guilt for his bloodshed. Oh, wait a second. So if you break in to steal something, you're found breaking in. You're found breaking in, and the sun is up though, so I could see you in here. What I'm supposed to do? I'm supposed to just like tell you to put your hands up or something. Stop stealing my stuff. You're not automatically supposed to kill that person, it seems, I guess. I think the problem is that you don't know if they're there to steal from you or not. You know what I mean?
They could have just accidentally came in your house.
Well, I'm saying somebody could have actually just come in your house, like I did that before.
You accidentally went to someone's house?
Yes. When I went down to my grandparents' house in DC, and I went to visit my Uncle Zach. And I went to the store, and they lived in like row houses that looked exactly the same. They lived in row. So I went to the store, and I came back, and I walked all the way in the wrong house. And I'm looking around like, this ain't Uncle Zach's house. And then the people started coming to the door. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be going next door. So I walked in the wrong house.
Oh wow.
So somebody could actually accidentally come in the wrong house by mistake. I'm saying I've done that. I speak from experience, right? But I'm saying that. But what I'm also saying is that somebody could come in your house and thievery not actually be what they're trying to do. is what I'm saying. So it's one thing to say that somebody comes into your house to thieve in the daytime, but how do you know if they're coming to thieve or not? You don't really know. You don't really know.
Normally go coming at night.
I think you need some more information. Huh?
They normally come at night when they can't be seen.
Yeah. Well,
And then you know, if it's during the daytime and it's a community, you probably know the person that's in your house.
I always think I'm not remembering that we talking about Israel. If you come in my house, it's different in the community, and I know you as opposed to just me living on my street and somebody coming in here.
You don't
But
know.
we don't live in a community setting. All right, so I can still kill them then, right? I can still kill them then, right? Because it's not community.
But he has to be stealing something.
I don't know if he's stealing
if
or
you
not.
don't see the fringes on the person, then
Okay.
you're okay.
All right. I think that might be the loophole right there. I don't know if they're Israel or not, but if they're Israel, well, if they got fringes in it, well, at least maybe we can have a conversation first to find out their intentions.
Why are you in my house?
Again, I think that is when we look at these things, we're able to look at these judgments and gain from it the principle, right? Because there is the fact that you talking about something that's going on inside the nation of Israel, where you dealing with rules that go towards the nation of the people, where we live in a place that's not a nation, right? And there's robbers that come around that actually are not your brother, right? And so these things happen. So what we have to do is really look at these things and think about the the concept that we gain from these judgments, right? The underlying spiritual principles that we gain from looking at these things, right? We look at that first one where it talked about there's no guilt. Again, the thief's breaking in and, you're just getting this robber that you don't know who he is. But I think the difference is, I guess, when you have the idea of the son, maybe you do know that who he is and see that he's your brother, right? And then he actually gets, has to go and repay. But then now we have this further. If we read verse 4, keep on reading down. Verse 4.
If the theft is indeed found alive in his hand, whether it is an ox or or donkey or sheep, he repays double.
Okay, now see, right now the thief, you didn't kill him, you didn't kill the thief, you just hemmed him up, right, and took him before the judges, and now he got double payment, right? So we don't have a death penalty attached to thievery, right? Okay, keep on going.
When a man lets a field or vineyard, be grazed bare, and lets loose his livestock, and it feeds in another man's field, he repays from the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard.
Okay, keep going.
When fire breaks out and spreads to thorn bushes, so that stacked grain or standing grain or the field is consumed, he who kindled the fire shall certainly repay.
Okay, keep on going.
When a man gives silver or goods to his neighbor to guard, and it is stolen out of the man's house, If the theft is found, he repays double. If the thief is not found, then the master of the house shall be brought before Elohim to see whether he has put his hand into his neighbor's goods.
Okay, when we looked at these other ones, they're pretty much kind of straightforward, right? Again, thinking about the fact that you being responsible for your things. You let your animal sit up there and get loose and then ate up somebody else's stuff, then, you got to pay for that. You set these fires and they spread into somebody else's situation, you got to pay for that, right? If somebody gives you something to hold and then somebody come in and steal their stuff, right? And the thief is found. If the thief is found, he pays double, it said. But if he's not found, then the master of the house now is brought before Elohim to see whether he has put his hand into the neighbor's goods.
That's interesting. Unsolved case.
How did you let the thief even come in and steal your neighbor's stuff? Right? So the master ain't just off the hook just because, your house just happened to get broken into whenever you hold in my silver. Right?
That's kind of interesting. The way it's even worded, he has put his hand into his neighbor's good.
I know, because I guess you always had scandalous people. Yo, I got Yehuda's silver. You know what I'm saying? He went on vacation. I'm holding it for him. If you just slide over here and act like you robbing the place, you know what I'm saying? I'll split it with you. Right? People was always shady, so they had to have the judgments in place just in case. Right? Keep on going, verse 9.
All skinfolk and kinfolk.
That's right. Why is it in here? It's in there because they was probably out here doing it. Right?
Yeah.
Keep on
going. For every matter of transgression, for ox, for donkey, for sheep, for garment, or for whatever is lost, which another claims to be his, let the matter of them both come before Elohim, and whomever Elohim declares wrong repays double to his neighbor. When a man gives to his neighbor a donkey or ox or sheep or any beast to watch over, and it dies, or is injured, or is driven away while no one is looking, let an oath of Yahweh be between them both, that he has not put his hand into the neighbor's goods. And the owner of it shall accept that, and he does not repay. But if it is indeed stolen from him, he repays to its owner. If it is torn to pieces, then let him bring it for evidence. He does not repay what was torn. And when a man borrows from his neighbor and it is injured or dies while the owner of it is not present, he shall certainly repay. But if its owner was with it, he does not repay. If it was hired, he is entitled to the hire.
Okay, so look at all of these. When we go through these, we see interesting. We look at these ones up here in terms of like we're verse 11, let an oath of Yahweh be between them. Now they're getting the Most High involved. And again, we're dealing with these people who are keeping these judgments. So there has to be some type of level of uprightness on these people where they are expected to make these oaths and say who did what, right? And they getting the Most High involved, so that makes it more serious. It's not just about, man, I ain't do that. Yeah. All right, we'll make an oath then. Right?
That's
and then
that the owner has to accept that.
Yeah, there's nothing that could be done. Right? That's what it is. And so there was, I would say, a greater weight on people's word, and especially now when you're now oathing something to the Most High, it's basically, whatever you say, you're responsible for that, right? And so, when we think about, again, the weight, we talked about the weight before in regards to parents, think about the weight that, we should have in regards to the things that relate to the Most High, right? If the Most High should be involved in all of our situations, but especially if we're specifically adding him to a particular situation, that should be like the ultimate thing to say whether you're being upright or not. If you're adding him to the situation, instead of just out here false oathing to the Most High. Okay, so down there in verse 15, read that one again, 14 and 15.
And when a man borrows from his neighbor and it is injured or dies while the owner of it is not present, he shall certainly repay.
Okay, so if a man borrows from his neighbor and it is injured or dies, the thing that he borrowed, while the owner is not present, he shall repay. Okay, so you got something that's his and the thing dies. You pay for it. But if the owner was with it, he does not pay. If it was hired, the owner's right there. It's not even a thing. Right? He does not repay, for it was hired. He is entitled to the hire, but he's right there. So that makes a difference. The owner's there.
He could be like, I don't want you to do that with my animal.
Huh?
Like he could like stop the person from harming his stuff while he's.
Yeah, he's there. He still has a responsibility for the thing because he's there. If he's not there, he's almost delegating that authority. Okay, keep on going at 16 then. Just read 16 and 17.
And when a man entices a maiden who is not engaged and lies with her, he shall certainly pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he pays according to the bride price of maidens.
Okay, very good. So we see over here that man is not able to just go and be taking maidens who he's not engaged to, right? That maiden belongs to the father, right? Even though she's not engaged to anyone, she still needs to be given away to the man. And so if the father absolutely refuses after he's done it, so he's able to refuse, right? He still pays because he took something that didn't belong, right? And so this is something that, people, especially Israel, I think, from a standpoint of family and even just righteousness is concerned, that the daughters, our young maidens, need to be protected, I would say, at a higher level than what we see going on out here in society, right? Where the girl goes out and she done already found some boyfriend somewhere, and then after so long brings him home to daddy, right? These things wasn't so back over in Israel, right? If you thought that you wanted to sit up here and talk to somebody's daughter, you had to go and actually talk to their daddy first, right? And these ones over here better not ever think that they're gonna be doing any of these type of things around here. Daddy is in control of the situation, right? I'm gonna be just like this one over here, refusing left and right if it's not the one that daddy wants, right? Okay, keep on going. We can talk more about these things, but okay, what's this say right here?
Do not allow a practicer of witchcraft to live.
Okay, very good. Inside of Israel, this is just totally forbidden. If you were sitting up here messing around with with all of this spiritual wickedness, then you can't live. It says, period. Don't allow them to live. It don't even say put them out of the camp. You don't want them. The Most High don't want them living in Israel. He don't want them living outside of Israel.
Oh,
It says.
you don't want to live in the city of refuge. You
Nowhere.
don't want to live outside the
Nowhere.
city.
Nowhere. 19.
Anyone lying with a beast shall certainly be put to death.
Same thing. 20.
He who slaughters to an Elohim, except to Yahweh only, is put under the ban.
I didn't even look at this one. What that mean? Under the ban. What's that word? Let's see what this is. Oh, whoa. Haram. To seclude, specifically by ban, to devote to religious use. This fellowship. Physically or reflexively, to be blunt, make it cursed, consecrate, destroy, devote. Okay. So, yeah. So I guess when you think about here, the scriptures translated as the ban, but this seems to be kind of like a yeah, they're out of the camp. Nobody, you can't mess with this person no more. Like they're done. If they sat up here and slaughtered two idols, right? Basically, yeah, that's some disfellowshipping right there. 21.
Do not tread down a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. Do not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you do afflict them at all, if they cry out to me at all, I shall certainly hear their cry, and my wrath shall burn, and I shall kill you with the sword. Your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless.
Okay, very good. We just going to 24. If we look at these, hold on, let's look at this first. So we talk about the idea of to do not tread down a sojourner or oppress him, right? Israel always was a place where outsiders was able to come in, right, alongside and be with Israel, right? And so the Most High, knowing that Israel, as it says, where you were sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim, you didn't like it the way you was treated over there, so much so that you cried out to me. And I came and rescued you from up out of that place, right? Of being that stranger in a strange land. So why then would you go and do the same thing that I sat up here and freed you from? Why would you do that to somebody else, right? And so we see over there, again, just like in all of these judgments, we see that the Most High is compassionate, and he wants for his people to also be compassionate, right? You can't sit up here and say that you are Israel, right? And be like oppressive towards those who are different from you, right? That don't line up with the character of Israel, right? The character of Israel should emulate and manifest the character of the Most High. And those that came and connected themselves to Israel, the Most High cared for them as well and said, "Don't tread them down, vex, yana, to rage, to be violent, to suppress, to maltreat, destroy, right? To do violence to, right? So we got to keep that in mind. And then lastly, we see the Most High's love and compassion that he has for the widow and the fatherless, right? Throughout the Torah, throughout the whole scriptures, we see the Most High's love and compassion that he has for the widow, the fatherless, that one who doesn't have someone to protect them, right? Don't afflict those that don't have someone to protect and stand up for them, the widow and the fatherless. If they cry out to me, he says, I'll hear their cry, right? And my wrath shall burn, and I'll kill you with the sword. Your wives and your widows and your children. Your wives shall be widows and your children shall be fatherless. So if you gonna sit up here and mistreat the widows and the fatherless, then I'm gonna make your wives and your children fatherless. Right? Most High cares about the widow and the fatherless. And you know, we too as Israel, last we'll just close out talking about this a little bit. You know, just we as Israel, you know, really, you know, we gotta have the same type of love and compassion that the Most High has for the fatherless, for the widow, for those that aren't able to provide and protect for themselves, right? You know, whether we talking about literal widows and literal fatherless, or those simply that you know are without, that need protection, right? And so again, when we look at you know, all of these things, all of these different judgments that we see, again, like I said, we see the character of the Most High humanized. He's showing us how we are to be with people, and when we be with people in this way, we're manifesting the character of the Most High. And so now on this side of things, when we have the Ruach HaKodesh on the inside of us, we're able to recognize the spirit of the Most High because we're able to see how he behaves, right? We're able to see how it is that he would do things if he was walking around with us even right now, right? And so this, just like all the laws, statutes, and commands and judgments in the Torah, you know, it's important for us to familiarize ourselves with the Most High's character, so then when we see his character manifest, you know, we know that it is that's what that is over there, right? You got people out here sitting up here saying the Most High told them to do this and that, but then when you sit up there and look at what the this or that is, it's something that don't line up with his character. He gave us his character right in the scriptures. We're able to look and see with plain sight, how he will behave, how he acts, right? And so when we look and see and somebody say, the Most High told me to do this and so, right? And it don't line up, we able to look and judge that thing, right? We able to look and judge that thing based on the Most High's righteous judgment and know whether we can bear witness to the fact that they moving according to the spirit of the Most High, which causes us to walk in His character, or they walking in their own flesh and blood. Okay, so that being said, anybody have any thoughts or questions or comments about any of that stuff? Okay, so that being said, we for now, I guess we'll be done for today. We'll say Shabbat Shalom. For anybody who follows us every week, we'll be at Sukkot next Shabbat. So I don't know what our connectivity will be, but probably don't look for us unless you get the notification, because we're gonna be up in the woods. You might not have no stream abilities, right? But if you get the notification, of course, we will, right? Okay, so that being said, we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Oh, forgot about Monday too. Yeah, Monday's atonement. We will have a live stream on the Day of Atonement. So until then, Shabbat Shalom.